Bitterness. I want to talk to you about bitterness today. It's a really difficult thing that a lot of people succumb to in their life, or maybe they're tempted to feel that way at a certain point in their life. And it's just it's a hard thing to deal with, but today I'm going to talk about that. I want to start off with talking about something that happened to me about 15 years ago. I was in a really bad car accident 15 years ago. I was driving down the road to work one day, and I was going straight through an intersection, and there was a person who was turning left, and they were supposed to, in the state that I live in, sometimes there's protected green and sometimes it's not, but this person was supposed to yield to traffic going straight through the intersection, and they did not. So they proceeded to turn, and they made the left turn, and when they did, they T-boned my car. And so my car was completely totaled. It was really bad, and my body hit the airbag really quickly, so really hard. So my wrist ended up breaking. It was a really bad wrist fracture, and so I had this really bad car accident, and it was just really bad. It was probably as bad, one of the worst types of car accidents. I'm just really lucky looking back that my car didn't flip or didn't catch on fire. God really was protecting me through all of that. But I found out later that I had been ticketed for the accident, and it was clearly not my fault. I remember vividly going through that light and, attempting to go through that light, and I didn't make it all the way through because she hit me, but I was going through the light, and I had, it was green. It was clearly green. And so this person they were at fault, but I was the one who was ticketed. And so as a result, my insurance wouldn't cover everything that needed to be done. I actually had to pay for her car's damages, and it was just a really awful situation. And in that moment, heck yeah, I'm the victim here. She's the one who did all this to me. I was just driving down the street one day, just going to work, doing my thing, and she's got to get in the way and do this, So I had it was really a woe is me type of mentality for a while. But why am I telling you this? I am telling you this because the Bible has a lot to say about bitterness and resentment and just not forgiving someone who wronged you. And I know I'm using an extreme example here of, how someone wronged me. A lot of people would have thought, okay, well, in that situation, you have a right to be a little bitter. But I think what happens more often in life is that we have some type of fallout with someone, or someone offends us in some type of way, or, we just can't get over it, and it festers, and it's a lot of the times it's not the person who has offended us. They don't even know. They go about their lives just completely, they don't know anything about it. And it's killing us inside, because it's not something we can let go of. And so the Bible actually says in Proverbs, each heart knows its own bitterness, and no one else can share its joy. It's talking about how bitterness is so isolating. It's something that when you feel it, you could have a smile on your face and go about your life, and just no one knows that these deep things are hiding inside of you, but it's killing you, from the inside. You have so much just resentment, and so much just anger really is what it is at the root. It's just this anger at this person or whatever it is that's offended you or hurt you in some type of way. So it's just a really destructive thing, and the Bible really talks about it being like a poison, and it can erode your physical and mental health over time. You can, these people where they've held on to that type of thing, those grudges, that bitterness for so long that it starts wearing on their physical body. they start developing chronic, ailments or diseases because, not saying that's always due to that, but many times it's just because that person's just, they're holding on so tight, and it's that they can't let go. They can't, it's that bitterness that's really taken over their life. But in the book of Job, it says, he says, therefore I will not keep silent. I will speak out in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. I think a lot of Christians are somewhat familiar with the book of Job. I mean, he went through it. I think most people would agree. And so I think the Bible's just really saying that, we all have a tendency to become bitter. All the things that happen in our life, we have a tendency to, we can forgive and we can use it to move on and heal, or we can just sit in it and we can just never get over it. And it's always hurting us in the end more than it's hurting anyone else. It's really just in our best interest to move on. And how do we do that? Well, we seek God. We bring all of it to God because He's the only one who can help us get through it. I don't think sometimes, you hear stories on the news sometimes of just these horrible things happening, and you look at the victim. I'm going to use the word victim in quotation marks. And it's just like, wow, how could they ever forgive this person for what was done to them? And it's God. God has to reveal something to that person, or it's totally God's work doing all of that. In Psalms it says, though you have made me see troubles many and bitter, you will restore my life again. From the depths of the earth will you again bring me up. God's the only one who can restore us. He's the only one who can bring us back into just feeling that joy again, and that just not holding grudges against people, because at some point or another, we've probably offended someone else. We have, we've done something that could make someone, be bitter or not, they may not be able to forgive us easily. I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me. Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And that's Lamentations 3:19 through 23. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. It's Proverbs 3:5. That's really something that I cling to. If I've been hurt by someone, or, it's okay, maybe God, I don't understand everything about where this person's coming from. Would you show me, would you teach me what I need to know? Because chances are we're just looking at it from a limited perspective. Maybe there's some healing that has to take place. Maybe we're triggered. That's kind of the word now as far as psychology goes, but maybe we're triggered by something or someone. And it's really just pointing to how we need to heal something inside of us. And so God is the ultimate healer. He knows your entire life story. He knows where you've been, where you're going, all of that. And so it really does make sense to go to him with everything. And a lot of times we have bitterness because we've had really high expectations. And I'm kind of guilty of this. You have high expectations of friendships, or, whatever it is, relationships, any type of relationship with another human being. And sometimes you're let down, and let's face it, you will be disappointed by people at some point, because we're not perfect. We're not, we mean well a lot of times, but sometimes we hurt others. We do things, not really aware of our, how our words, especially, how they may affect others. But, like I said, it really does come down to just bringing it to God. Just, okay, you see this situation from, I don't have your vantage point. I can't look at what's going on in this other person's life, and then what is going on in my life as far as, the healing that needs to take place, or just something that needs to be revealed that, I'm just not aware of. And I don't want to sound too much like those self-help, think positive and everything. I know you hear these things a lot, but practicing gratitude really does help. And sometimes, some days you wake up and it's like, you really just want to complain, that's the human tendency sometimes, but just writing down one thing that you're thankful for that day. And it doesn't even have to be a big thing, but that can really get you down, get you on the road to just not being so offended, or just being able to, just being resilient. I think just being able to move on and to heal from what needs to be healed from. As far as my situation goes, what happened to me a while ago, it took me, I'm not gonna lie, it took me years to get over that, because I think this is what God showed me with that situation was, I was working in retail during that time. And if anyone, if you've worked in retail, you know that you can get a little cynical after a while, because people just come to you and they want stuff all the time. You really kind of see that greed with human nature. You see, no one really appreciates what you're doing for, any type of customer service. I think you could probably relate to that at some point. But with retail, I had just kind of a cynicism that had developed as far as people goes. And I think what God was showing me through all of that, it took me a long time to realize it, but I saw so much kindness from the hospital staff. They were just really just compassionate, and just really like they truly cared. And I know it's their job to do that, but I just sensed like a really just compassionate and empathy. There's empathy was something that I had not seen from strangers anyway, and I don't see it. I didn't see it very often. So it really just kind of restored my faith in humanity a little bit. Just seeing how warm and kind they were and how much they wanted to help me. And so, there's a silver lining, that saying, there's always a silver lining to some of the bad things that happen in our lives. And sometimes we don't see those things immediately. It can take a long time. It can take years sometimes. And so that's at that point where, you got to ask yourself, do I want to live in this place? Because it's only going to hurt me in the long run if I don't forgive and just move on and heal from what I need to heal from. But another thing that I'd like to share before I get off is I now have a bionic wrist, and there's the scar. You can see it right there. I still have the scar from the accident, but it just reminds me of God's faithfulness, despite having to pretty much relearn how to use my wrist. I went to hand therapy for, I think it was about 6 months. I'm not really sure, but it felt like forever at the time, but it was a long time of just learning how to use everything again. And so I think I just want to share this, because I know that a lot of people, we live in a crazy world today where, people have really been through some things. They've been through some hardships. Some are not due to another person, some are. And so I think that opportunity for just grief, a grief that people feel sometimes, and that just feeling bitter about their circumstances, it can really tempt you to start feeling that way. But, you have to bring everything to God, and He will help you move through, those really hard feelings that you're feeling, because bitterness is not a place where you want to be long term. So I don't know if this encouraged anyone, but I just thought I'd put this video out there, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care. God bless.